good? Welcome back to my channel, Diva in the A brand. This your girl, Kayla. Alright y'all, so as you can see, we are a few days into November and Thanksgiving is approaching very fast. So it's only right if I start y'all off with the #1 dish for Thanksgiving, and that's stuffing. So if you guys are like me, I know I do not like that sweet dressing that tastes like cake. This ain't no dessert. No. So if you're like me, you like that old school buttermilk cornbread dressing. It'd be so delicious, y'all. It'd be bomb. Y'all know it'd be bomb. So this recipe happens to come from my mother, and when she makes it, the family loves it. And of course, I make it like her, of course. So let's go ahead and get into the ingredients, guys. All right, y'all, so I went ahead and cleaned my chicken and my gizzards, and I have about 4 pieces of chicken thighs and some gizzards. Okay, now for my chicken stock, I'm adding in 2 celery stalks, 1 green pepper. I just cut it in half. I have some chopped up onions. Of course, some chicken broth, and 1 chicken bouillon. Okay, now to add to my stuffing, I have some diced onions. I also have 1 green pepper, some diced up green peppers, okay, and some diced up celery. And to season it so it can taste good, I will be adding in some sea salt, black pepper, of course, some complete seasoning, some sage, thyme, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and some smoked paprika. Now for the cornbread, I have 2 sticks of margarine. I probably won't use all of it, guys, but 2 sticks to be safe. I also have 2 eggs. Now I will be using 1 egg for the cornbread and 1 egg for the dressing. I have some sugar, some self-rising flour, self-rising cornmeal, buttermilk, and some oil. Regular vegetable oil is fine. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do is boil my chicken thighs and my gizzards. I have my pot filled up halfway with some water, and I have my stove down on a low heat. Now right before my water starts to boil, I'm going to pour this water off and pour some fresh water in before my oil and my flavor come out. But you guys can just skim off the residue off the top if you want to, so this is optional. Alright, so my fresh water is in. Now I'm adding in some butter, followed by my onions that I chopped up into chunks. Now I'm adding in my green pepper, and I'm just cutting that into chunks as well. All this will give it some flavor, y'all. So now I'm adding in my celery stalks, and I'm just breaking them in half, as you can see, into some big pieces. Alright. Now I'm going to push that butter down in there, and I'm going to start adding my seasoning. So first I'm adding in my chicken bouillon. Next I'm going in with some black pepper, some complete seasoning, sage, some thyme, garlic powder, some onion powder, and I'm going to mix that up really well, guys. Now I'm adding in my chicken broth, which will also add to it and give it a nice flavor. And I'm adding in my sea salt. And I like to add in my salt last once I taste it to see what the natural flavor is. I'm also adding in a little bit more sage. And I'm adding in some more butter. So I'm going to mix that in and taste my broth. And it tastes good, y'all. Perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and let that boil. And I'm going to move on to my cornbread. So first I'm adding in some flour, cornmeal, some sugar, and 1 egg. Now I'm going to add in my buttermilk. And now I'm going to go ahead and melt some butter and some oil. I'm going to place that in the oven. And that's how much I have, guys. Okay, meanwhile, while that's melting, I'm going to go ahead and mix in my buttermilk. And I'm actually adding in a little bit more buttermilk. And I'm going to mix that in really good. Gotta have that buttermilk in that cornbread. All right, so I'm adding some water to thin it out. And my oil and my butter is melted, as you can see. And that's the consistency, guys. Not too thick, not too thin. Now I'm adding in the butter, and I know it looks like a lot at first, guys, but trust me, once you cook that bread and you mix it in, it's going to be just fine. So once my pan cooled down, I'm going to take some of that leftover oil and butter and just grease my pan. Just like that. Now I'm pouring my cornbread batter in the pan. And I'm making sure I get all of it out, guys. I need it all. So now I'm just going to go ahead and just even it out. And I'm going to pop that in the oven. So guys, look at my cornbread. Look how perfect that is. So while the bread cools off, I'm going to go check on my broth, and my chicken gizzards and my chicken thighs are done. The chicken thighs are even starting to fall apart. And this broth looks so yummy, guys. So now I'm going to remove some of the chicken gizzards and some of the chicken thighs from the pot. However, I will be leaving a little bit behind because I will be using some of them for my gravy. I'm just trying not to get the big pieces of onions and bell peppers. Okay, now that my bread have cooled down, I'm going to go ahead and just cut it into 4s. And I'm going to start crumbling my bread. And this bread smells so good, and it's just so thick and rich. And I just had to taste it. I couldn't resist it. Ooh, it's just calling my name, y'all. I had to. All right, guys, so let's start crumbling. So you want to crumble your bread just like this. And when I get to the rim of the cornbread, around the edges where it's a little bit crunchy, then I just make sure I crumble them into smaller pieces, as you see me doing. But the middle part of the bread will crumble easy because it's very soft. And you guys can get the kids involved with this one too, because I'm sure they will not turn down playing in food. This is right up their alley. So this is about enough bread, guys. This is good enough, and I have this left over. Okay, so once your chicken and your gizzards cool down, you're going to go ahead and start shredding them just like I'm doing. I always start off with my chicken thighs first. And I'm just going through it and just shredding it into small pieces. Just like that. Now I'm going to start cutting my gizzards into small pieces. You can use your hand if you want to, but I just use a knife and cut them up into small pieces. Now I'm adding the onions and some of the bell peppers that got caught up in my spoon when I was removing the gizzards and the chicken. So I will be saving the rest of the chicken and gizzards for my gravy. Now I'm pouring in my chicken broth from the pot. And before you add the chicken broth in, guys, as you can see, I already added in my diced up onions, bell peppers, and celery. And you will also add in more seasoning, which will be the onion powder, garlic powder, thyme, sage, complete seasoning, salt, and pepper. My camera was not recording and I thought it was, so I missed out on that part. So sorry, y'all, but you will just add that in before you start adding in your broth. So I've added in some broth, guys, and that's the texture. As you can see, it's still kind of thick. It's not too thin. Now I'm going to taste it for my seasoning to see what it's working with, and it tastes good, guys. So I'm just adding in a little bit more chicken broth and 1 egg and more chicken broth. Now the more chicken broth you add in, the softer your stuffing will be. I don't like mine too soft, so I'm not adding in a lot. But this consistency is perfect for me. It's moist, but it's not too soft. So now I'm going to go ahead and grease my baking dish first. Going to get it nice and greased up, and make sure you have your oven preheated to 350. Now it's time to place the stuffing in the baking dish, and I place a little bit in at a time, and using the back and the side of the spoon, I'm just going to go ahead and flatten it down. And I could have actually used a bigger baking dish, but hey, it is what it is. This smells good, and it's not even baked yet. So I'm just topping it off with a little paprika. Then I'm going to go ahead and place my stuffing in the oven. Now it's time to make this famous gravy, y'all. So I'm placing 3 tablespoons of oil in my pot. Now I'm going to add in some flour. And normally I do not measure at all, y'all. I just go with the flow. I guess I've been cooking it for so long, so I already have those measurements in my head. I just know how it looks, but I'm going to try to give y'all some measurements. So you just want to mix that flour in. And by the way, my stove is like on a medium high heat. You want to just constantly keep mixing it. You want it to look just like this, nice and smooth. Now, once it starts to brown and it looks like this, guys, that's perfect. That's what you want. You don't want it to burn, but you want it to brown just like this. So once it brown, I'm now going to add in some of my chicken broth from the pot. And you just want to stir it in, and I add this in little by little. You want to mix it really well, and as you can see, it's starting to thicken. That's exactly what you want. Okay, so now I'm adding in the rest of the chicken broth, and now I'm just going to mix that in. It smells amazing. Now once it thickens, you can actually turn your stove down to like a low heat or a medium low heat. You don't want to cook it fast because you don't want it to burn. So guys, I'm adding in a little bit of gravy master. Now this is optional, but I'm going to add a drop in just to give me a nice color. I will place this down below as well, but this is optional. I don't do it every time. So I'm going to just mix that gravy master up. Good. Now I'm adding in the rest of my chicken thighs. So I'm just shredding it with my hand, as you can see. And you guys can add how much you want. It's up to you. And now I'm going in with some gizzards. I'm just adding a little bit of gizzards. And I'm adding some of the celery that was in the chicken broth. Now I'm adding in the leftover diced onions, bell peppers, and celery. So don't forget to save some when you add it to your dressing. Leave a little bit left over just for your gravy. So I'm just mixing the veggies in. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour the rest of the chicken broth in and mix it up, and that's pretty much it, guys. Your gravy is all done. I'm just going to let it simmer on low until I'm ready for it. All right, guys, so look at that dressing. Oh, it looks so good. It's beautiful. Like, it came out so pretty. This dressing is beautiful, guys. Have you ever seen a beautiful dressing? And just check out the gravy. Look at that, y'all. So before I serve my stuffing, I like to kind of rake it up a little bit. I don't know why. I just like to do it. So it's nice and fluffy. And look at that. Look at the inside of y'all. Look at the inside of that, y'all. Ooh, it's smelling like Thanksgiving in here, y'all. Well, the $1 million dressing is done. So y'all know what time it is. It's time to taste it and see what it's working with. All right, y'all, here we go. It smells delicious. Y'all know it's good when you gotta dance. It's on point, y'all. Bomb as always. The texture of this stuffing, y'all, is amazing. It's not soft. It's not over here looking like baby boo-boo. It's not sweet. It's perfect, guys. And you see, I didn't even have to add the stuffing in the bag. It's on point. Old school Southern style stuffing. Now, about that homemade gravy, y'all. Ooh, it is so good. Now, you can't find nothing like that in the store, so don't even try. Don't be lazy. Go ahead and make that. It also gives the dressing a pop. The dressing good by itself now, but that gizzard chicken gravy, it's so good, y'all. Y'all see how it looks? You see those pieces of chicken and gizzards in it? It's the bomb, guys. Delicious. So if you guys try this recipe for Thanksgiving, your family and friends will love it. As a matter of fact, they probably gonna be running to you asking you for the recipe. So just go ahead and tell them to subscribe to Diva in the Apron, okay? You guys will love it. So that's it for this video, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment, guys. Talk to me. Let me know what you think. Any recipes that you would like to see, let me know. Don't forget to turn on your post notification bell because I have some of my subscribers saying they don't get my updates all the time. So turn on those post notification bells, guys. Give me a thumbs up if you're feeling this video. And later, y'all. Bye-bye.